Hello Internet, I'm Richie and welcome to Sounds of Stadia SideQuest, the show where we take a step off the critical path and explore more of what the video game world has to offer. On this week's show, I'm joined by the host of the Sounds of Stadia podcast, Mr. Chris.
Hello, Stadios.
And no Tom still, he's still on paternity leave, but he does send his best wishes, I'm sure. And this week we will be discussing Stadia Pro. And does it need a refresh? But first things first, a little bit of housekeeping. I am aware of the audio issues. Thank you everyone who's reached out to me to mention the audio issues over the last few weeks. Fingers crossed it's all resolved now, and I have tweaked my settings a bit and moved my microphone to try and resolve the issues, but until I've literally recorded this, I won't know. So if they are still there, my apologies. But again, thank you. Just let me know. It does help a lot. That aside, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell icon for notifications. And if you want to support us, you can join us as a member for as little as 99p, which gives you early access to this very short whole 6 days early. And you get access to a Stadia controller next to your name when we do things like our Thursday night live streams and our full access of emojis. Do you want to use an emoji of Tom? Yes, you can if you become a member. Also, make sure you check out the Sounds of Stadia podcast. It comes out each and every Monday on YouTube and podcast services all over the globe. And another thing people have been asking me for is bringing SideQuest to podcast platforms. I haven't done it yet. I do intend to look into it, so it's very much on my list. But I'm not going to say when, just in case I don't get round to it. But I'm hoping to start. If things go well, depending how bad my hangover is, maybe you might see episodes of SideQuest appearing before you even watch this show. Put it that way. If you want to join the discussion even further, you can follow us on Twitter at Sounds of Stadia, at CyberChris2077, at RichieC89, and at AdaxisLP, or join our Discord. There is a link in the description below. So this week we are talking about, does Stadia Pro need a refresh? But first of all, I want to give a big shout out to Duncan from Cloudy for Chance of Games for very much being the inspiration behind this episode. He ran a poll on his Twitter at Want to Escape. Make sure you go follow him, asking basically people who follow him, do you think Stadia Pro needs a refresh? Does Stadia Pro offering need to be changed? Please comment with your thoughts. And what I liked about it is at the final polling, it was quite even between the yeses and nos, which I always think is a good topic for discussion when things are quite split. So it was like 56.2% yes and 53.8% no.
Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
Yeah. So, Chris, does Stadia Pro need a refresh? Yes or no?
I'm not going to give you just a distinct Twitter thick answer, yes or no. I'm definitely leaning more towards the camp of yes. I think as a business, with any kind of offering, it needs to evolve and change over time. If you look at kind of any industry, it usually evolves probably several times a year, in fact. And Stadia Pro has been quite stagnant since launch. We get up to 4K, always got to get that up to asterisk in there, and 60 frames per second if the games deliver that. And then, of course, Stadia Pro games every month.
Yeah.
And opportunities to buy games on a Stadia Pro discounted price. Other than that, that's the
5.1 surround sound, which if you have a decent audio setup in your house, then that is something that you probably do want to make use of. Otherwise, you just get, I think, stereo.
Certainly. For me, though, I think the reason it needs to change is how dynamic the market has been since the launch of next gen. We've got 2 new consoles entered the fray. We've got Microsoft flipping the whole industry on its head with the amazing offerings that Game Pass brings. We've got Amazon Luna bringing an alternative twist on it with the subscription kind of cable package TV variants. We've got Sony still clipping away, doing your PlayStation Plus offerings in and amongst the free, Play from Home campaign they had, where they just gave free games out in and amongst that.
Yeah.
And as good as Stadia Pro is, don't get me wrong, I've 100% got my value out of it, and it's been great. I do think it needs to dynamically change to either reflect the industry or just keep it fresh. After 2 years nearly.
Where I'm leaning to is I I'm leaning to a yes, but I don't think it needs a massive overhaul. I just think it just needs a little bit of tweaking. So there's a few things that we can go into. First of all, you've mentioned some of the competition. It's going largely up. It gets compared largely against Game Pass, PS Plus, Luna's like channel subscription service when that comes to the UK. Then you've got like brand specific ones like Ubisoft Plus, EA's offerings, etc., etc. So these sort of subscription services are becoming more common in general. I think if we talk about games, I think this is where it kind of falls down, to be honest, at times in a lot of people's minds.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if the games are the biggest thing, like we talk about change, the games are the thing that consistently does actually change. We know we get games, but it is the titles that they are the variety that keeps Pro either great or not so great, depending on your take. And we mentioned it in the podcast this week around the July Pro games. They're definitely reflective of more an indie title.
Yeah,
there's no big AAA hitters in there, and when that happens, it does pull out people saying like, well, is it worth the money? When you're comparing it, we compared it in the podcast with PlayStation Plus this month, which was Call of Duty, Black Ops 4, Plague Tale Innocence, and I'm blanking on what the third game is, but I will do my research while we talk, Richie, to find out what the particular games are. But when you stack it up, even just Call of Duty being in that mix blows Dark Side Detective out the water. No disrespect to that little title, but yeah, it does make a big difference. And we know PlayStation's a seasoned person in the platform in the industry, so you can't really critique it too harshly. And Stadia's library is nowhere near as big. But yeah, we've had Jedi Fallen Order in the past. That's been fantastic. For me, they've almost shot themselves in their own foot by not giving us a consistent amount of games, because we've got like 7 once at Christmas time. We've had 4. We started with like 2 or 3. In the number, there's no kind of consistency with what to expect. So then people start to compare. Well, actually, is 4 indie titles equivalent to Jedi Fallen Order and a couple of others? And then you start looking at it from a monetary standpoint.
Yeah, this is the thing. From a monetary standpoint, you might go, well, Stadia have got 5 games on Stadia Pro. I think the biggest one we even had was 7 games one month. That might actually in value be higher than what PlayStation are offering that particular month. But the one thing that always jumped out to me is Sony have quite often had 2 games every month. Usually, it's a bit different now in between generations, but during the bulk of the PS4 generation, you'd have usually two games, maybe 3. One would be a AAA game, and one would be an indie. And that's where Stadia, it seems to just be Pro offering just lots of indie games, and I like indie games, and I'm not the one who dismisses the game because it's an indie game, but there's a lot of people out there who just look at something like Dark Side Detective and not even bother to click into the store page because they haven't heard of it before. So that's where I think a lot of people are like, well, it's not worth it for the games, and they have a solid argument. If you're not into indie games, then Stadia Pro, I do think, does fall down massively in games at times.
Yeah. And we should point out as well that doesn't give a free pass for anybody else. PlayStation Plus, Games for Gold, they've all had terrible months in their own right.
God, yeah.
And people, any comment section, you're never going to please everybody because everyone has different tastes. That final game, though, I will mention, Richie, is a bit of an ironic one for Stadia. It's W2K Battlegrounds. Yeah. So it's a game that is actually out on Stadia, probably about, I think it was about $29.99. So didn't come out that long ago, actually. But in terms of, when you look at just like flagpole titles, if you were to compare this month side by side, I know our friend Brian over at the Nerf Report usually does his summaries or his comparisons or his just reports on them. You've got PS5, Plague Tale Innocence, well-revered game, Call of Duty, Black Ops 4, and a fairly recent game in WWE Battlegrounds. Obviously not a great game. I bought it and refunded it on Stadia, but that is a big, well-renowned game, a massive franchise in Call of Duty, and another well-known thing in terms of WWE, as opposed to Dark Side Detective, Terraria. What else did we get? Super Street Power Football.
Street Power Football, Dark Side Detective, Moonlight, and Terraria.
So there is a massive disparity in that, but that's not Stadia's fault. That's the games that exist on the library. They are restricted to that. So then I guess the question is, Richie, where else can Stadia Pro evolve to combat the lack of library?
Yeah, well, one advantage Stadia has over PlayStation is with PlayStation Plus, you get it every month. You have to get the games that month, and then because next month they're off the slate. If you haven't claimed them, they're gone. With Stadia, do you know how many games have only been on Stadia Pro for a single month? Bear in mind there was 90, not including July, because it's only 1 month in. Bear in mind there is 86 games at the end of June that have come to Stadia Pro.
How many have been on it for longer than 1 month?
How many have only been on for 1 month, then they moved off?
6.
No. 3.
3? I was going to say 3.
Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and Kona. Everything else has been on Pro for at least 2 months. Which, if you're someone who is new to the platform, for example, if you're new to the platform, you open Stadia Pro, you can get PUBG, which was a pro game in April 2020. There you go.
That's a great shout. Yeah, so you can join at any time and still have a massive library to kind of sign up to.
It's been on Stadia Pro for 13 months and still counting. So these games that have lasted a long time, which is for someone who, as a founder, that doesn't matter to me too much because I've been a founder and a Stadia Pro member since launch, so I've claimed every single Stadia Pro game every single month.
Yeah.
But if you're new to the platform, then Stadia Pro suddenly has quite a lot of value because you get a huge number of games to try. And I don't think there's any bad games on Stadia Pro. There's a lot of games that I've looked at and went, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
But I would never describe any of them as bad.
Yeah. So no, that's a very good point that they hang around for longer than the actual month of kind of release. That's definitely a win for Team Stadia. The kind of elephant in the room we should probably compare as well, rather than just leaning too heavily into PlayStation, is the Game Pass approach. And that comes down purely to, if I was to say the titles out, so I've got a couple of the most popular ones currently from the Game Pass website. You have Minecraft, Grand Theft Auto 5, FIFA 21, Forza Horizon, NBA 2K21, Sea of Thieves, Rainbow Six Siege, NBA The Show, Halo, Red Dead Online, Destiny 2, Dead by Daylight, Madden 21.
It's Microsoft's entire first-party lineup is on there.
And a few big hitters as well, alongside that. New releases, Dark Alliance as well, which I know didn't review well, but it's still a brand new game out. Of course, we saw them recently come out with, of course, the MLB game, which was a PlayStation exclusive. So, and we know
they're going to get things like Starfield as get on Game Pass. That's confirmed. Elder Scrolls 6 is almost certainly going to be a Game Pass game.
Mm-hmm.
So there's big hitters in the future that we already know about.
Yeah. Current Stadia games, of course, they have Doom.
Yeah.
As well, the Doom titles, the Wolfenstein games are on there. All to jump in and play for essentially the same price, give or take. So then, again, this is where we talk about like being dynamic and changing. I don't know how many times can we say like the value in Game Pass is insane. Like no one can. As a hardened PlayStation fan my entire life, the value in Game Pass is making me just think like, well, I'll have my PlayStation, but then I can also have Game Pass, then I can also have Stadia for playing in the cloud. And it's just subscription overload. And at one point, something has to give. And it's usually the lowest common denominator, which, comparing everything side by side, at what point does your average gamer just double down on one? And so again, back to our original question is, does Stadia Pro need to evolve? Yes. It needs to combat this behemoth.
Yeah.
Everyone does. Switch needs to up their game. PlayStation needs to up their game because they're not competing with the sheer value Microsoft is putting out.
With Switch is a bit different because I think it's by far the cheapest subscription. I think I don't know what it is.
It's like £40 a year, right?
Yeah, it's much cheaper than like what is it, $12.99 or something for Stadia every month. But
yeah,
and they also, part of that subscription, you get access, which is effectively cloud gaming through pretty much the entire NES and SNES library.
Mm-hmm.
That alone is pretty good value. And Tetris 99, which is an awesome game, which I haven't played in a while. I haven't played in a while because my
Stay focused. Stay focused.
Sorry.
I haven't played Tetris 99 in a while.
It's $19.99 a month for Nintendo Switch Online.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I haven't really included Switch, because I think that's the offering's in a different price point, and so you can expect a different thing from it.
So is their library.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of value, again, we're not like, they're all good in their own right, but does it need to change and evolve? Yes, I think it does.
Yeah, I think especially with the games, it's the lack of AAA games. I think sometimes it's just don't. I think sometimes getting 4 indies doesn't entice people, regardless of the quality of the indie.
Well, I guess step away from games for a second, because we could talk about games for eternity. The features we mentioned, the surround sound, the 4K, the 60.
Yeah.
Does that really matter? Like, to a lot of people? I know in our comments, a few people are in the same boat as I am, where I think games are gorgeous, and playing it on my phone, my tablet, my computer screen, I'm not going to get the 4K I would on my living room TV, where I very rarely play Stadia. So I'm paying for essentially the pro games, but I feel like I'm so committed to the pro game list now because I've been there since day one.
Yeah.
But if you're a new person to this and you look at that and think, so I need to pay just for better fidelity, should fidelity be in graphics and stuff be behind a paywall? Is that fair?
I think that is actually fair, because you're not buying the platform. That instead of paying £450 for a console to put into your TV, Stadia need to make money somehow, and this is one of the ways they're doing it.
Yeah.
And
I get that.
I think like $12.99 a month is a lot more approachable for a lot of people than £450 as a single purchase, even if actually you probably end up paying more in the long run.
So kind of a spin-off question from that then is,
I do think 4K though. I do think 4K 60 matters. It doesn't matter to me. The only 4K display I have is my PC monitor, which isn't good 4K. It's just big. It's just a big screen, and my phone's only 2K actually. So 4K doesn't matter much to me, so I don't particularly care. But if you spend thousands of pounds on a 4K TV, I think it would matter to you. And I think there's a lot of people are still. I don't personally get it. It's like a lot of people, gamers, are still like graphic snobs. They won't play a game that isn't like absolutely stunning graphics. But there again, I've just recently rolled credits on East 8, which if you check out my first look, I described the graphics as reminding me of Final Fantasy X, which is not a recent game.
Yeah. So my question to that then is, are these features, the 4K, 60, etc., are they just behind this paywall because Stadia don't believe in their own pro games? If the games aren't enough to get you in, is that why the other features there to back up? Like, what I'm trying to think, what's their preference? Is their preference for the features, or is it for the games? Like, what part of pro is the best part of the coin, really? I
think what it is most people probably don't use 5.1 surround sound, and most people still, I think, are on have 1080p TV. So I think 1080p is still the norm. It is shifting towards 4K in the living room, but I don't have a 4K TV in my living room. I haven't bought one yet, and I'm kind of waiting for my TV to die, which is probably going to be like 20 years. Yeah, but it's like I think there's a lot of people who probably only have 1080p screens, so 4K. I think gaming is not quite 4K the norm yet, which means that 4K I think is seen as the premium option, which is why I think it can be behind the paywall.
Yeah. At
some point though, I think that 4K will have to drop out of Pro, and probably when maybe 6K or 8K starts taking off.
Dollaroos.
But yeah, I think that's something that's always going to be there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure anyone will pay for Pro for just 5.1 surround, so that's probably something that can just drop out. But then you're losing value from the service, arguably.
That's it. So it needs to evolve.
It's like Catch-22. It's like, do you drop this out, but then you lose value from the service, which actually brings us interestingly into pricing. What do you think of the pricing of it? Do you think it's worth generally the price of it.
I'm just going to quickly check. It is $12.99, right? Because I've been paying for that long. I don't even look.
Objectively, if you take the value of the games you get every month, then it's a yes. You're getting more games for your money by being a Stadia Pro member than if you bought the games individually. But the reality is that's not how people work. You might get 4 Stadia Pro games and play one of them, or you might get a run of like 3 months in a row and not play any of them. Or you might get something like, for me there, I got like East 8 was a pro game a couple of months back, and I played about 70 hours of it.
Is it $12.99?
I don't.
There's a Pocket article here saying pro memberships in the UK $8.99, $9.99 in the US, and €9.99 in European countries.
Why did I get $12.99 then?
It might, for some reason, that sounds right for me as well. I'll check my. Check my pro. I'll check my Google
Stadia Pro subscription is $8.99.
Oh,
where's 12?
I don't know where you've got.
I have
Ubisoft
no idea
Plus?
where the 12. Yeah, Ubisoft Plus. That's it. Sorry about that. We're 20 minutes into the show, and I've been quoting the wrong price.
That's okay. But that's
fine.
an interesting thing. At what point do they have to put the price up as well? Because we've seen that's always something that can happen with subscription. We've seen it happen with Netflix all the time, where the costs go up, inflation. At one point, they might have to turn around and go, Stadia is going to be $2 more. And that's when, if you're increasing the price, they need to constantly add value to it. We've seen it in the biggest example I think of is the mobile industry, where everyone is fighting to get the best price plan. And everyone globally knows about this. Like, you go to AT&T, T-Mobile, anyone in the UK as well. They're always like offering special deals, special promotions with like minutes, text, Game Pass, internet. Netflix, Amazon Prime, Sky TV, they're always trying to mix it up and keep it different, and the price plans usually change almost like bi-monthly, if not even more regular.
I mean, I don't like price plans changing that often. That's just annoying, to be honest, as a consumer.
Oh, as a consumer, but competition, that's what happens. If your competitor does something, you have to react because you're in the same industry, and if you don't react, you become lesser. And this is kind of back to the crux of the whole thing of, if Game Pass is doing massive moves like this, Sony will need to react at some point, or vice versa. Therefore, Stadia does in some regard too, right?
The very concept of Stadia and the very way it works, where it's basically there's no entry fee. You can just play it. You can play on your phone. You can play on your TV. Now it's coming to Android TV as well. You're not going to even need a Chromecast soon. You can play on your PC, your laptop, a Chromebook, whatever you've got. It's actually a vulnerability in that sense, because as more services come cloud gaming, we know. Now xCloud is now fully available on PC. With the Series X blades. That's happened now. So then, on the same device that you're playing Stadia, and it's come to iOS, the same device that you can play Stadia, you can now play xCloud games. So then it's just not like you spend £450 on the box underneath your TV. So and to move away to transition from Sony to Xbox, it's going to cost you that again.
Yeah.
So it's actually, it makes these subscription services a bit more vulnerable. How many people cycle between things like Netflix, Amazon Prime, Now TV?
Well, yeah, that's it. It's attrition, isn't it? You don't want to lose people. You don't want to lose subscribers and then never gain them back. If the competition is doing something better, the big risk is, like, I'd love to know from our audience as well how many people actually still have their Pro subscription. We've seen a couple of times on Twitter when people announce they're leaving Stadia Pro. It's like, great, thanks for the update, but still, if there's like 50% of the players out there don't have Pro, that's an income Stadia isn't getting. They don't have the hardware to sell. So where does the platform become stable with a solid financial income? And I know Microsoft have been touted saying Game Pass isn't financially viable long term. Now they start racking up the 30-40 million subs en route, it will become, the tipping point will happen. So where, again, Richie, back to the whole argument, is like, where are Google making their profit from in this whole thing as well? So it's like a bigger umbrella.
Stadia Pro wouldn't be a thing if they weren't making money from it. So while we look at the value of the games each month is always higher than how much you pay, Google aren't paying £20 for every game that they sell for £20. It's just not how it works. So one thing I think, though, that they should do, and please Google, if you're listening, just give us an annual pass. Give me the option to pay for my Stadia Pro for an entire year at a reduced cost than it would cost me every single month, because then you're guaranteeing that sale for the people to take it up. It's I do it. You can do it with pretty much every other subscription service. You can do annual passes, and it's just something I've wanted since day one. I'd rather pay maybe £70 for an entire year than $8.99 a month.
A nice bit of variety, right? Gives you an option as a consumer.
Yeah, and also look into. I think we've talked about this in the SideQuest before. Bundling in with other services. This is where you can. Google is uniquely placed to add value. If you can maybe get YouTube Premium at a discounted rate, or as just part of your Stadia Plus, then you're going to get more people involved. Actually, more likely the other way around.
That's we did the whole episode on that, but that is it. If you bundled Stadia Pro in with YouTube Premium, you're more likely probably to see a spike in YouTube Premium subscribers because of the gaming outlet than you would the other way around. I wouldn't sign for Stadia Pro for the YouTube perks, but the other way around, it's already a bigger user base. It's already a bigger user base, sorry, and it markets itself a little bit easier. YouTube Premium's marketed out the eyeballs all over the place. I get promotions pop up on my phone every other week. I open YouTube, it says, "Do you want to try a free trial of YouTube Premium?" No, I don't. But if that said with games, or would you like to try Destiny 2 right now with YouTube Premium? That could be another question mark raise of, what do you mean try it on YouTube? Follow the link? Oh, it's through Stadia. Oh, I can use my phone. Oh. Right, okay, I didn't know about this. And it almost markets itself.
Here you go, Google. Here's a free idea for you. A promotion. Send a 1 month free Stadia Pro subscription to every single YouTube Premium member you have. Suddenly, might get a lot of people try the platform. You're just going, hey, you're our customer. Do you want to check out this thing we've got? He's 1 month free.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even 3 months. Let them draw them in with the 3 months. So if they had 3 months, they claimed the last 3 months worth of games, they'd be sitting on Resident Evil 7 and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and amongst other titles.
I actually have the list in front of me. If we're saying from start of May, Triumph 4, which is quite well reviewed actually in the Stadia community. Hotline Miami 2, which is good fun. Floor Kids, they wouldn't get Jedi Fallen Order. That's no longer on Stadia Pro. Legend Hero.
But if they'd had it for the 3 months, is what I was saying.
Oh, if they'd had it, so I'll start from March. They'd have Pac-Man Megaton Battle, Reigns, Avicii Invector, Pixel Junk Raiders, Resident Evil 7, SpongeBob, SquarePants, Battle for Bikini Bottom, East 8, Lacrimosa of Dana, Pikaniku, Triumph 4, Hotline Miami 2, Floor Kids, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Right. So the flip side of that would be, imagine your 3 month subscription lapsing after having had it, and then it's like, oh, we're going to take away Jedi Fallen Order from you now. And that random YouTube Premium member is going to be like, oh, I kind of like having it. I'll just keep my Pro going. Yeah. And then they're in the Stadia ecosystem a little bit more. But that's a whole topic.
In that 3 months, they may have just purchased a controller as well.
Or been sent a discount code for a Chromecast kind of thing,
Yeah, so they may not stick around with Stadia Pro, but they can be used to bring more people to the platform, which is we've discussed many times, especially for multiplayer games. It's one of the biggest flaws of the platform at the moment is the player base.
Yeah, it's ecosystems and it's keeping them in. So like whether it's games, features, pricing, the more you keep people in that Google ecosystem, the more likely they are to hang around, the more they become part of that. And then that's when their kids do the same thing, their partner does the same thing. And it's about winning the whole household when it comes to technology. And people have Apple households, people have Samsung ones, people have PlayStation, Xbox. It's about being in that ecosystem. And you make your purchasing decisions based on what you like. And if they do something, if they treat you right, you'll stay around. People are going to be loyal to Xbox now because of how good Game Pass is. Can that same be said for Stadia Pro? Don't know if it can.
No, so I think we're largely in agreement here that they need to probably hit more AAA titles into the monthly Pro games. Probably even if it means a reduction in the number of games, because there's some old games in the platform that haven't been to Stadia Pro. You look at Doom. Although that's now Microsoft, so not the best example. It was just the first one that came to mind as an older game that could easily be chucked onto Stadia Pro.
Yeah. For me, it's got to be quality over quantity.
Yes.
I would quite happily have one AAA game that I've maybe looked at and thought, oh, that might be a bit either too expensive or I haven't got around to it. And then a little indie game, as opposed to 6 or 7 indie games where I might play them all for like an hour a piece, unless really one gets me.
That's kind of where I started this discussion for myself, like with PlayStation Plus for a long time, AAA and indie. So you're getting that exposure for the indies, which is good, and something I do want to see continue. I just want to make that clear. I'm not against indie games being on Stadia Pro at all. But as I said earlier, a lot of people will just dismiss indie games because they're indie games. But if people do, I think that is just the reality. So throwing more and more indie games at people doesn't change the perceived value of the service to people who are not interested in indie games. It's just that. Yeah. So, anything else you want to add before we wrap up? Yeah. So, there you go. Homework for this week. In the comments below, let us know if you are still a Stadia Pro member, or if you're not, why aren't you anymore?
Yeah. I'd be very interested to see what people's takes are on it. And again, financials are a big part of that. Like people just like if you're more savvy with your money, which I'm not.
Yeah, like if I was being more savvy for money, I wouldn't have my library probably be half the size, because I would be activating or deactivating Stadia Pro on months when there's games on the service I'm interested in. Well, I do go for the months where I just leave it active and don't play any of the games. But there again, the opposite side of that is, well, actually, I was going to say I might not have played East 8 if it wasn't for Stadia Pro, but that came out the same month as Resident Evil 7, so I absolutely would have done. I would have had Stadia Pro active that month, but there might have been months where a game's come out that I wasn't interested in, but ended up playing because it was Stadia Pro.
Yeah. It's an interesting one.
Yeah.
I guess only time will tell. We still don't know if there's a Connect due anytime soon, if there's going to be some kind of just anything other than the blog posts to kind of give us an update on where we sit, what the direction is. We've been calling for that for a good while now, and it's July now, Richie, and we've not heard a peep outside of what games are coming and what sales are happening. So this might just be the life we live right now. But yeah, I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts on it and just see where they sit on the Stadia Pro fence and what their ideas are.
Yeah.
I'm sure some people have got awesome marketing ideas based on their own takes on it. So hit us up below.
Well, that's all we have time for you again. A massive shout out to Duncan at One2Escape on Twitter, and check over Cloudy with a Chance of Games as well for basically being the massive. Pretty much, I stole this idea from you, Duncan. I'm sorry, I stole it. But make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon for notifications. If you're feeling you got an extra £1 in your pocket, why not become a YouTube member on our founders tier, where you can get the show in early access, a whole 6 days early. It supports the channel, helps keep things running, buys new equipment, make potentially deals with my audio issues if I have to hire a professional to come edit the show for me. Not doing that.
I was gonna say, Richie, if you, like Richie, thought you were paying $12.99 for your Stadia Pro subscription, there's actually a couple of extra pounds sitting around there that you didn't know about.
Yeah.
That you've just got back.
Yeah, you've just got £4 back, create 4 Google accounts and become a full member.
That's over the top.
Yeah, it's over the top. Make sure you listen to the podcast. Comes out on podcast services and on YouTube every single Monday. Check out our Thursday night live streams, where most recently at the time of recording we had some great fun playing Rainbow Six Siege, and I've joined the discussion even further in the Discord. My name's been Richie.
I've been Chris.
We've been Sounds of Stadia. Thank you very much for watching. Quest completed.